He told me he was going fishing with my brother. But when I showed up at the cabin, I found my husband in bed with my brother's wife, and they didn't even look surprised to see me standing there. I was already 3 months into my affair with Marcus when I walked into that cabin and found my husband Jake tangled up with my sister-in-law Rachel. The irony wasn't lost on me even then, standing there with my overnight bag full of lingerie I'd bought specifically to wear for another man, watching my husband kiss the woman I complained about at every family dinner for the past 5 years. They looked at me like they'd been expecting me, and maybe they had been. Maybe everyone knew about everyone, and we were all just pretending our secrets were safe while we destroyed everything we'd built. Marcus was Jake's best friend from college. That detail matters because it makes everything worse, makes me worse, makes the whole twisted mess feel like something scripted by someone who really wanted to drive home the point about consequences. I'd started the affair because I was bored. That's it. No grand romantic story, no soul-crushing loneliness, no dead bedroom situation. Jake loved me, really loved me, in that steady, reliable way that I'd once thought was enough. But after 7 years of marriage and 2 kids, I wanted to feel wanted again, not just loved. I wanted someone to look at me like I was a mystery to solve, not a problem to manage between soccer practices and mortgage payments. The first time Marcus touched me, really touched me, was at Jake's 35th birthday party. Jake was laughing with my brother Tom about some fishing trip they were planning, and Marcus cornered me in the kitchen while I was refilling the chip bowls. "You know he doesn't deserve you," he said, and I should have laughed it off, should have told him he wasn't being inappropriate. Instead, I let him kiss me right there, 20 feet from where my husband was celebrating another year of his life, 20 feet from where our kids were playing video games in the living room. After that, it was like I'd been infected with something. I couldn't stop thinking about Marcus, about the way he made me feel like I was 22 again, before stretch marks and sagging, the exhaustion that comes from pretending to be happy with your perfectly fine life. We started meeting during lunch breaks, then after work, then whenever Jake had plans with Tom. I told myself it was just physical, just a phase, just something I needed to get out of my system. I told myself Jake would never find out, and even if he did, we could work through it. People work through affairs all the time, right? The fishing trip was supposed to be my perfect opportunity. Jake and Tom were heading to Tom's cabin for the weekend, some male bonding thing they did every few months. "Home with the kids," Rachel said, her voice steady like we were discussing carpool schedules. "He thinks I'm at a spa weekend with my sister." The casualness of it, the practiced lies, made me want to scream. But I couldn't, because I was standing there in my dress I'd bought for Marcus, with my overnight bag in the car filled with things I'd planned to wear for another man, and we all knew it. The silence stretched out, heavy and suffocating, until Jake finally spoke again. "How long have you been seeing Marcus?" he asked, and my knees actually buckled. I had to grab the doorframe to stay upright. "How did you?" "He told me," Jake said, pulling on his boxers with the same calm movements he used every morning before work. 3 weeks ago. He felt guilty, can you believe that? Marcus grew a conscience and decided to confess everything. 3 weeks. They'd known for 3 weeks, and everything since then had been what? A performance? A test? I thought about all the normal dinners we'd had, the conversations about the kids' school activities, the night Jake had brought me flowers just because. All of it happening while he knew I was planning to spend this weekend in bed with his best friend. So this is what, revenge? I gestured at Rachel, who was now pulling on Jake's t-shirt, the one I'd bought him last Christmas. "No," Jake said, and the sadness in his voice was worse than anger would have been. "This started 8 months ago. Before you and Marcus, before any of it." 8 months. I did the math in my head, traced back through family dinners and double dates, through all the times Rachel and I had sat together watching our kids play, complaining about our husband's obsession with football and fishing. 8 months of them sneaking around while I judged other women who had affairs, while I prided myself on being a good wife even as I was bored out of my mind. "Tom doesn't know," Rachel said, as if that mattered, as if any of us had any moral high ground to stand on. "Jake and I were going to tell you both, eventually. We were trying to figure out how to do it without destroying the kids." The kids. God, the kids. Lily and James, 6 and 8, who loved their Uncle Tom and Aunt Rachel, who played with their cousins every weekend, who had no idea their parents were liars and cheats and homewreckers. The weight of what we'd all done, what we were about to do to them, hit me so hard I actually up right there in the doorway. Jake stepped forward like he was going to help me, then stopped, caught between old habits and new realities. The drive home from the cabin was the longest 2 hours of my life. I called Marcus 17 times, left increasingly unhinged voicemails that went from accusations to pleas to threats and back again. He never answered. When I finally got home, his car was in my driveway, and for 1 second, I thought maybe he'd come to fight for me, to tell me he loved me and we could run away together and start over somewhere new. But Tom's truck was there too, and I knew before I even walked inside that everything was about to get so much worse. They were sitting at my kitchen table, Tom and Marcus, looking like they'd been waiting for hours. Marcus had clearly been crying, his face red and puffy in a way I'd never seen before. Tom just looked empty, like someone had scooped out everything that made him Tom and left just the shell sitting there, holding a he hadn't touched. Rachel called, Tom said without looking at me. Told me everything. About her and Jake, about you and this piece of. He gestured at Marcus, who flinched like he'd been hit. Tom, I don't. His voice was quiet but sharp enough too. Just don't. I'm only here to tell you that I'm taking the kids. All of them. My kids, your kids, we're going to my mother's house, and we're going to figure out what to tell them while you four sort out your. You can't take my kids, I said, panic rising in my throat. You have no right. Jake already agreed, Tom said, finally looking at me, and the disgust in his eyes made me want to disappear. He's driving them over now. Rachel's packing their things. We all agreed the kids shouldn't be here for what comes next. What came next? Lawyers, divorce papers, custody battles, division of assets. The complete destruction of two families who'd been so intertwined we'd joked about being one big family. Sunday dinners, shared vacations, the trip to Disney we'd all taken last year where Lily had called Rachel her second mommy and we'd all laughed about it. The photo from that trip was still on our refrigerator, all 8 of us in matching Mickey ears, smiling like we weren't all keeping secrets that would destroy everything. Marcus finally spoke, his voice rough and broken. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened, You just decided to my sister while pretending to be my friend? Tom's laugh was bitter and sharp. While eating at my table, playing with my kids, looking me in the eye and lying every single day? It wasn't supposed to happen, I said, knowing how pathetic it sounded. Nothing just happens, Tom said, standing up. You make choices. Every text, every meeting, every lie, those were all choices. And now you get to live with them. He left without saying goodbye, and Marcus followed soon after, mumbling something about needing to think. I sat alone in my kitchen, in the house Jake and I had bought together 5 years ago, surrounded by evidence of the life we'd built. Lily's art projects on the fridge, James's soccer trophy on the shelf, the calendar marked with all our family obligations that would never happen now. Jake came home around midnight. He'd been crying too, I could tell, but he moved through the house with purpose, packing bags, grabbing important documents, avoiding looking at me directly. How did we get here? I asked, standing in the doorway of what had been our bedroom. He stopped packing and really looked at me for the first time since the cabin. I fell in love with her, he said simply. I didn't mean to, I fought it for months, but she saw me in a way you hadn't in years. And you? You were already gone, weren't you? Even before Marcus, you were somewhere else. He was right. I'd been gone long before Marcus, checked out of our marriage but too comfortable to leave, too scared to admit that maybe love wasn't enough if it didn't come with passion and excitement and that feeling of being truly alive. But understanding how we got here didn't make it any less. What do we tell the kids? I asked, and my voice broke on the last word. The truth, eventually, Jake said. Age-appropriate versions of it. They deserve that much. The truth. That mommy and daddy didn't love each other anymore, that Uncle Tom and Aunt Rachel wouldn't be coming around anymore, that the family they'd known their whole lives was built on foundations made of sand. How do you explain that to a 6-year-old who still believes in happy endings? The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers and mediations and real estate agents. Jake and Rachel didn't even try to hide their relationship anymore, showing up to meetings together, planning their future while Tom and I sat on opposite sides of conference room tables, dividing up the wreckage of our marriages. Marcus disappeared completely, blocked my number, quit his job, and according to mutual friends, moved to Seattle to start over. Tom and I couldn't even look at each other. We'd lost our spouses to each other's spouses, a sick joke that everyone would whisper about for years. The betrayal was so complete, so intertwined, that we couldn't even properly hate the right people. How do you process your husband leaving you for your sister-in-law while you were cheating with his best friend? How do you explain that to anyone without sounding like you're living in a soap opera? The kids knew something was wrong immediately. Lily started having nightmares, waking up screaming for Daddy, then for Uncle Tom, confused about why everyone was disappearing. James went quiet, stopped talking about school, stopped playing soccer, just sat in his room playing video games with his headphones on, shutting out a world that had stopped making sense. The first time I had to drop them off at Jake's new apartment, the one he was sharing with Rachel, I thought I might actually from the pain of it. Lily clung to me, crying and begging not to go, while James just walked past me without a word, his little shoulders set in a way that reminded me so much of Jake physically. Rachel had the decency to stay inside, but I could see her shadow in the window, already playing house with my family. Tom refused to do exchanges at all. His mother handled dropping off and picking up his kids, and the one time we accidentally ran into each other at the grocery store, he turned around and walked out, leaving a full cart in the middle of the aisle. The look on his face, the mixture of pain and rage and disgust, haunted me for weeks. It's been a year now since the cabin, and I need to tell you what happens after everyone stops talking about the scandal, after the divorce papers are signed and the houses are sold and the kids stop crying every night. I need you to understand what you're really choosing when you think an affair will solve your problems. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment now, the kind with thin walls where I can hear my neighbors fighting and living their lives while I sit alone on a Friday night, scrolling through Facebook and seeing photos of Jake and Rachel's engagement party. Yes, engagement party. They're getting married next month, a small ceremony that my children will attend, standing up there in matching outfits while their father marries their aunt. The same aunt who used to braid Lily's hair and teach James card tricks, now becoming their stepmother in a story so twisted I can't even explain it to my therapist without her looking shocked. Tom remarried 6 months ago, to a woman he met at a divorce support group. She's pretty and kind and nothing like Rachel, and his kids seem happy in the photos his mother occasionally sends me, not because she forgives me but because she thinks I should see what I destroyed. They look like a real family, the kind that has Sunday dinners and inside jokes and no secrets that could burn it all down. Sometimes I wonder if Tom tells his new wife about us, about how his sister and brother-in-law destroyed his first marriage, or if he's rewritten history to exclude us entirely. Marcus is married now too. I found out through Instagram, a wedding photo that popped up on my Explore page like the universe wanted to twist the knife one more time. His bride is young and beautiful and glowing in a way I haven't glowed in years. She looks at him the way I used to look at Jake before I got bored, before I decided that comfortable love wasn't enough. I wonder if he'll cheat on her too, if that itch for something more is just who he is, or if I was the mistake he learned from. The kids are in therapy now, twice a week, trying to process what one therapist called complex family trauma. That's a nice way of saying their parents up so spectacularly that they'll be unpacking it for years. Lily still has nightmares, but now they're about me leaving too, about waking up and finding everyone gone. She asks me constantly if I'm happy, if I still love her, if I'm going to marry someone else and forget about her. 6 years old and already worried about being replaced, already learning that love comes with conditions and expiration dates. James hasn't forgiven me. He knows, somehow, that I started it all. Kids are perceptive like that, picking up on emotions we think we're hiding. He's angry all the time now, getting in fights at school, talking back to teachers, turning into someone I don't recognize. Jake says he's the same at their house, that even having Rachel there full-time hasn't helped. We broke something in him that might never get fixed, and every time I see that anger in his eyes, I know I did that. I chose that. The financial reality is another thing nobody talks about when they're in the throes of an affair. 2 households are expensive. Child support, alimony, therapy bills, lawyer fees. I work 2 jobs now just to afford the apartment and the basics. No more Target runs just for fun, no more Saturday brunches with friends, no more vacations that weren't carefully negotiated and budgeted months in advance. Jake and Rachel combined their incomes and seem to be doing fine, posting pictures from their trip to Hawaii, the same resort where Jake and I honeymooned. That particular cruelty felt intentional. But the money isn't the worst part. The worst part is the loneliness, the kind that seeps into your bones and stays there. I can't date because who wants to deal with this mess? How do you explain on a first date that your ex-husband is married to your former sister-in-law, that your brother won't speak to you, that your kids spend half their time in a house you're not allowed to enter? I tried online dating for a while, but every match wanted to know why I got divorced, and infidelity is a red flag that sends decent men running. My friends picked sides, and most of them picked Jake's. He was the wrong party first, after all, and the fact that he was also cheating got lost in the narrative of me destroying our family for his best friend. The few friends who stayed neutral eventually got tired of hearing about it, tired of me crying over wine and asking how I could have been so. There's a limit to how long people will feel sorry for you when you cause your own downfall. Holidays are the special kind of reserved for broken families. Last Christmas was split down the middle, kids opening presents at Jake's in the morning, mine in the afternoon, their little faces confused about why Santa had to visit 2 houses now. Rachel had helped them make ornaments with their handprints, a tradition I'd started when Lily was a baby, and when James showed me his. Proud of what he'd made with Aunt Rachel, I had to excuse myself to cry in the bathroom. Tom's kids don't come around anymore. The cousins who used to be like siblings now pass each other at school without speaking. Lily asked me last week why her cousin Emma won't play with her anymore, and how do you explain that? How do you tell a 6-year-old that choices poisoned everything, that the family she loved was collateral damage in a war nobody really won? I see them sometimes, Tom and his new family, around town. At the grocery store, the park, school events. We orbit each other like hostile planets, maintaining careful distance, pretending we don't share this horrible history. His new wife looks at me with a mixture of pity and disgust, this cautionary tale of what happens when you take your marriage for granted. She holds Tom's hand a little tighter when they pass me, like infidelity might be contagious. The truth is, I don't even remember why I did it anymore. The excitement, the passion, the feeling of being desired, it all faded so fast once everything exploded. Marcus and I had 3 months of sneaking around, 3 months of feeling alive, and for that, I traded everything. My marriage, my family, my brother, my children's innocence, their cousins, their stability, their trust. 3 months of selfish choices that will ripple through generations. People ask me if it was worth it, usually in that way where they already know the answer and just want to hear me say it. Of course it wasn't worth it. Nothing could be worth this. But that's the trick of affairs, they make you in the moment, make you believe that this feeling, this high, this escape from your boring life is more important than everything you've built. They make you forget that excitement fades but consequences last forever. Jake and Rachel seem happy. That's the part that kills me. They took our destruction and built something real on top of it. They post family photos where everyone's smiling, where my kids look comfortable and loved, where they're creating new traditions I'm not part of. Sometimes I wonder if they were always meant to be together, if Marcus and I were just the excuse they needed to finally choose each other. But that's probably just something I tell myself to feel less responsible for starting the dominoes falling. I gotta save the date for their wedding last week. The audacity of it took my breath away, but Jake included a note saying the kids wanted me to know about it, that they were worried I'd be upset if I found out another way. So now I have a date circled on my calendar when my ex-husband will marry my former sister-in-law, when my children will watch their father promise to love someone else forever, when the life I away will be officially replaced. Here's what I need you to understand: when you're considering an affair, when you're standing at that crossroads between staying faithful and jumping off the cliff, you're not just risking your marriage. You're risking every single relationship connected to it. You're risking your children's ability to trust, their sense of security, their relationship with extended family. You're risking friendships, finances, futures you haven't even imagined yet. You're setting fire to a web of connections that can never be rewoven the same way. I would give anything to go back to that moment in the kitchen at Jake's birthday party, to push Marcus away, to choose differently. I'd take boring. I'd take comfortable. I'd take feeling unappreciated and unseen over this hollow existence where I'm the villain in my own children's story. Where I'm the cautionary tale other married women whisper about when they're feeling restless. Where I'm the reason my daughter might grow up unable to trust, why my son might never believe in love that lasts. The last time I saw Tom, really saw him, was at a school play 3 months ago. Both sets of kids were performing, and we ended up seated just 2 rows apart. During intermission, our eyes met across the auditorium, and for just a second, I saw my brother again. The one who taught me to ride a bike, who walked me down the aisle at my wedding, who held Lily the day she was born and cried because she was so perfect. Then his face hardened, and he looked away, and I knew that brother was gone forever, another casualty of my choices. That's the thing about consequences, they don't just hit once and fade. They keep coming, wave after wave, each one revealing new depths of what you've lost. Every school event where we have to coordinate who attends. Every birthday where the other family isn't invited. Every time my kids come home talking about their new family with Rachel and Jake, or Tom's kids mention their new mom who makes better cookies than Aunt Rachel ever did. Every reminder that I took something that worked, something that was good enough, and destroyed it for something that was never real to begin with. So here's my warning, the one I wish someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and screamed at me before I kissed Marcus back that night, that it's your feeling? That grass that looks greener? That excitement you're chasing? It's not worth it. It will never be worth it. Because in the end, you don't just lose the person you're cheating on. You lose everything and everyone connected to them, and you lose pieces of yourself you didn't even know could break. I'm the woman who had an okay marriage and it away for 3 months of feeling special. I'm the mother who broke her children's family because she was bored. I'm the sister who lost her brother because she couldn't keep her legs closed. I'm the cautionary tale that proves that some mistakes can't be fixed, some betrayals can't be forgiven, and some choices echo through generations. And the cruelest irony of all? Jake and Rachel got their happy ending on the ashes of what we burned down, while I sit here alone on a Friday night, typing this out as a warning to strangers on the internet, hoping maybe someone will read this and choose differently. Hoping maybe someone will realize that for better or worse includes the boring parts, the unsexy parts, the parts where you feel invisible and unappreciated. Choose better. Choose faithful. Choose bored if you have to. Because the alternative isn't an exciting new life with someone who really sees you. The alternative is this: watching your children call another woman mom while you become nothing more than a witness to the life you torched, forever locked outside the warmth of a family you destroyed, knowing you're the one who lit the match. Rachel would be home with their kids, Jake would be gone, and I'd have 48 uninterrupted hours with Marcus. I told Jake I was going to visit my college roommate in Portland. I even created fake text conversations with her, screenshots I could show if he asked. He didn't ask. He just kissed me goodbye and said he'd miss me, and I felt nothing. No guilt, no shame, just anticipation for what was coming. But Marcus canceled last minute. Some work emergency he couldn't avoid. I was furious, sitting in my car in the parking lot of the hotel we'd booked, feeling like an idiot in my new dress and heels. That's when I decided to surprise Jake at the cabin instead. I'd drive up there, play the loving wife who missed her husband, and maybe the normalcy of it would reset something in my brain. Maybe seeing Jake in his element, happy and relaxed, would remind me why I'd married him in the first place. The cabin was only 2 hours away. I stopped at the grocery store in town and bought steaks and Jake's favorites. I was actually feeling good about myself, like maybe this was the universe's way of telling me to stop the affair before it destroyed everything. I parked next to Jake's truck and Tom's SUV, grabbed the groceries, and used the spare key Tom kept under the fake rock by the door. I was already imagining Jake's surprised face, already crafting the story about how my friend had to cancel and I couldn't bear to spend the weekend without him. The cabin was quiet. Too quiet for two men who were supposedly drinking and bullshitting about football. I set the groceries on the counter and noticed Rachel's purse on the table. My first thought was that she'd surprise Tom too, and we'd all have a laugh about being clingy wives. But then I heard it. A sound I knew too well, a sound I'd made myself just a week ago in Marcus's apartment. It was coming from the back bedroom, the one with a good view of the lake. I should have left. Should have grabbed my keys and driven away and pretended I'd never been there. Instead, I walked down that hallway like I was being pulled by something outside myself. The door was cracked open, and through it, I could see them. Jake and Rachel, moving together like they'd done this 100 times before. The practiced way she touched him, the familiar way he responded, it all spoke to something that had been going on for who knows how long. When I pushed the door open, they stopped but didn't scramble apart like people caught in the act should. Rachel just pulled the sheet up to cover herself, and Jake looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Not guilt, not surprise, just a kind of tired recognition. "So you know," he said, and it wasn't a question. "Where's Tom?" was all I could manage to say, like his absence was the most shocking part of walking in on my husband with his wife.